Hi, I'm going to give you a little insight into the lo-fi kit sound that I've been getting with this vintage Ludwig. This lo-fi sound is pretty hip now. Everybody's doing it. There's loads of loop packs that you can get with that sound, that crunchy, lovely vintage sound. So I'm going to do a couple of videos just to explain how I'm getting it. I can only do that from my perspective. I've no idea how other people do it, but I'll show you for sure how I'm getting that sound. So I'll start with the kit and the mics and the general kind of idea of what I've been doing. So that the sound that you've been hearing, that lo-fi thing that's out everywhere, stuff like this. And this. Comes from it's derived from obviously like a sort of vintage sound. So this is a vintage Ludwig that I've got. The Ludwig thing is sort of, producers love that sort of Ludwig sound, so I've bought a Ludwig kit, even though I am endorsed to Gretsch. Ludwig is undeniable that in the studio that, you know, it is a sound. And this vintage Ludwig kit is a 1965. 13, 16, 22. This is a 1969 Acrolite, all tuned pretty normally, really, with exceptions to the bass drum, which I'll get onto in a minute. I love these big fat snare drum cow moo heads, and they're synthetic. Obviously, they're not actual cow skin, but they're synthetic, and they just go over the kit. They've got a little magnet here which holds it onto the drum, and it gives that lovely sort of fluttery Ringo vintage sound. It sounds like this. They're beautiful. They kind of control the sound, and it's the essence of what that vintage thing is. With the bass drum, I usually detune my bass drum on my other kit almost to the point where it's starting to wrinkle on the backside. What I've noticed, if you're trying to get this lo-fi sort of knock bass drum sound, I noticed that if I tune it up much further than I normally do on my bass drum, both heads, the backside and the front head, obviously there's much more high end coming from the bass drum, and it gives that lovely knock sound that everybody's familiar with that, you know, lo-fi vintage kit, and it sounds like this. Cymbal wise, same deal, vintage. These are 1950s Ks, so a lovely sounding, crunchy, old sounding set of hi-hats before we even start. And that's, you know, you don't want kind of bright new cymbals if you're trying to get this sound. Everything's older and kind of dirtier than the bright shiny stuff, drums and cymbals included. This cymbal is a new cymbal. It is a Stanton Moore Lunar Crash with some rivets, and I've noticed that it really suits the compressor that I've got, which is a Heritage Audio 660 Hairchild, and it just really reacts so beautifully with that, which is coming through this microphone here, which is a Shure ribbon mic mono, which is down here on purpose because it's close to the hats, the snare drum, and this cymbal. This is basically where most of this vintage sound is coming from, which is it's hardware Heritage Audio 660 compressor. This cymbal sounds like this anyway. It's beautiful. Thank you, Stanton. So mic-wise, I've said about the Shure, which is I can't remember the name of it, but it is their top of the range ribbon microphone, which is a mono, which is, like I say, going to the Hairchild. Hi-hats, I've got a Beyerdynamic ribbon M160, which is my favorite hi-hat mic. I absolutely love them. I've got it on both my kits here in the studio. Fantastic overhead mic. It's got that lovely warm ribbon sound in conjunction with the lovely old hi-hats, and you're starting to get the idea of that vintage crunchy noise before you even start EQing or messing around with compression. So the start of this sound is crunchy before we even get going. The cymbal, like I say, is not vintage, but it certainly sounds it. Snare drum microphone is a Beyerdynamic M201, which I love it. It's a nicer microphone, I think, for if you're trying to get that fat sound. Obviously, any microphone will do it really, but I've noticed with the M201, if you're trying to get a deeper, fatter sound, it's a really great microphone for that. This tom mic is a vintage Shure Unidyne 3, and it's kind of a pre-SM57 microphone, 70s kind of mic, and I really dig it, the sound of it. It makes this rack sound really cool, and it fits in with the whole vintage vibe. Over here is a microphone. I've got a new relationship with a company called Soan, and this is one of their standard sort of tom microphones. I love it. It comes in a pack, and Soan, you might have seen a few of them around. We've got some overheads and stuff. They're a really brilliant sort of boutique British microphone company. I love them. In the bass drum is a vintage Sennheiser 421, which gives that lovely sort of clicky sound. And then alongside that, I've got a Low Freak sub microphone in the front there. So the two sounds combined really give that beautiful rounded sort of kick sound. And here is an AKG D19, which is nicknamed the Ringo microphone because it would always be hanging above Ringo as a mono kit mic at Abbey Road. And they were relatively cheap microphones. I think they were everywhere. They used to put them on toms and guitars, snares, bass drum, hi-hats, everything. But Ringo, if you look at some of the photographs of Ringo when he was at Abbey Road, very often there'd be this one microphone hanging above his kit, which is a D19, and I've got that going through my Heritage Audio Motor City EQ, which is a beautiful copy of a vintage EQ unit, and it gives a lovely kind of sound fully over the drum kit. Again, vintage microphone, pretty vintage sounding overhead. That is the basics of the kit, and I will get into how I'm processing in the next video. Let me know if this is any use or if you like this type of thing in the comments below. If you are digging it, please subscribe, because I'm going to be spending much more time doing this kind of stuff on YouTube. All right, see you soon.